What was the catalyst that got you there? Obviously, it was recovering your health, but how did you find this mental performance space?
Yeah, so part of it was I kind of given up on life. I was in so much pain at that point. Like I was in and out of hospitals constantly. So I grew up poor. We grew up, at one point we lived in a trailer park. Then we moved to my great grandma's old house when we moved back to where my parents were from.
What are some of the secrets, right? Like, what's the insight that people can get out of that book?
I did for a long time, and it wasn't until relatively recently when I started, one after my health started to kind of clear up. I really part of that was because I started getting into this mental performance stuff that we talked about a little bit ago.
All right. So today on this episode of the Financial Enabler podcast, we have Kevin Brewer. How you doing, Kevin? Glad that we have you here.
Yeah, doing well, man. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. So I'm really excited. We haven't discussed much about this, and I kind of did it on purpose because I wanted to dive into it here. Tell me a little bit about your background. What's your background?
So I was prior Navy guy. Joined the Navy right out of high school. Did 7-ish years, just a couple months shy of 7 years. Got out after some health issues and stuff, and then got into government contracting after that, and I've been doing that ever since until recently. I just actually rejoined back with the government. But on the side, because of all my health issues, I got into mental performance. So I do a lot of mental performance stuff kind of on the side now, working to eventually build that into a standalone business.
Nice. What was your job in the Navy?
I was a CTT, if you know those rates, a cryptologic technician. So I did intel stuff, basically non-communication based signals intelligence, radar, basically.
Really? Okay. I have no idea what that means, but I'm not gonna radar. Got it. Got it. Now, with you said that, and I'm assuming that this will drive some of it. Your medical situation that caused you to depart. Uh, this Are you open to share what caused it? If it's relevant, are you open to share?
Yeah, I'm an open book, man. So what caused it, I'm not 100% sure. It started shortly after I got back from Afghanistan, which is why I was undiagnosed for 13 years. A lot of doctors over those years just really tried to pass me off as saying PTSD, and they just would, poo-poo me. It could have been something I was born with, and then aggravated it with throughout just being a boy. Just a dude, just doing stupid crap all the time.
Yeah.
Compounding injuries and stuff. But I eventually ended up finding out it was what they call cervical instability. So my cervical spine, my neck, effectively, the ligaments that hold my skull onto my neck were loose. So I was effectively, every time I'd move my neck or look up, stuff like that, I was crushing my brainstem and messing with my spinal cord. So I was having all kinds of issues and symptoms throughout my body. And because there's so many different issues, doctors just don't want to believe you. And plus, again, as it kind of started after I got back from Afghanistan, they just wanted to just say, like, well, it's just anxiety, it's PTSD, it's all these different things. But the reality is, it was probably related to, I was on the way back from Afghanistan. I got sick as a dog. I think I got like swine flu, I think was going around that time. So I was real sick. I had a massive sinus infection, so my whole left side completely filled up. My right side was half filled up. I had 2 hernias that I needed to get fixed. So when I got back, they put me on some antibiotics that for 3 weeks that I didn't know caused ligament damage. And I also have psoriasis, which turned into psoriatic arthritis, which I didn't know, which obviously causes ligament problems. So I was lifting weights as I was kind of getting healthier, but I was still on the medications. And I felt something kind of pop up in the neck, kind of upper back area. Being a stupid 22-year-old, 23-year-old, whatever it was, I said, hey, that kind of hurt. Let me go play basketball instead, So I probably compounded
Yeah,
the
that's the right
injuries,
thing.
and then, and then from that point on, I just kept getting progressively worse every year until I got to the point where I could barely move from the couch to the fridge. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Dude, and I apologize. I said what caused it. What I meant to say, what was it? What was it that, what I meant to say is what caused your departure? What was the medical situation?
Oh, yeah.
Which you said that your cervical column is loose, right?
Yeah.
So we literally could say that your screws are loose.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. So I'm glad we dove into that. Let me ask you because and I'm gonna take a segue just because we just talked about. I just posted about it. There's the article about the changes necessary for the changes that the Doge wants for the VA. It's clearly a lot of people with a lot of emotions. But I particularly, I'm gonna go ahead and put it in the podcast because I can. I believe the VA is a crucial part of government for our veterans. It needs refinement, and unfortunately, I believe that there's a lot of service members that could be better stewards of the money that we get, because there's clearly guys like you that have way serious conditions that could probably benefit from better care and service, right?
Yeah.
That's just my opinions. But I'm gonna ask you, how has been your experience with the VA as after your service?
Yeah, so when I first got out, I started with the process of doing the disability claims. And I got a decent amount, and depending on where you are, which VA you go to, obviously, is a very big difference. And they
Yeah,
kind of actually helped me out initially. They got me some stuff that I wouldn't even known to ask for. So I got up to 60% right away, and that was actually pretty helpful. And then I ended up going through another service and getting up to 100% eventually. But um, when I'd first gotten out, just to backtrack a second, I got out kind of abruptly because when I got back from Afghanistan, my command messed up my paperwork. They extended my rotation date, but not my enlistment date. And then by the time they realized it, my job was overmanned and they wanted me to re-enlist. Uh, but the timing was just
wow,
going to screw me over. So I was like, no, I'm not gonna do it. So I ended up getting out relatively
yeah,
fast. So I didn't have a plan yet. So I got out and I went back to
yeah.
my hometown and started the process through the VA there. I was actually able to go through the VA in Iowa City, which is attached to the University of Iowa. So the care there wasn't too bad. Um, I came
Got
back
it.
here to the Virginia area. It's a little bit mixed. I go through the Martinsburg VA. Some of the doctors there are really good. The problem is they don't stay very long when they're that good. So you get a mixed bag
Uh,
because they don't have full-time doctors that stay, especially if you have this specialty thing. So it really just depends on the doc. But I mean, I guess that goes for anything. But I have seen some
yeah,
really good doctors through the VA, and I've seen some horrible doctors through the VA. So it's kind of been a little bit of a mixed bag that route.
yeah. Okay, that makes sense. And now let's. I wanted to ask about that because it's a big point of contention, and obviously disability claims has its own sensitivities. But let me ask you this, because it must have been tough to get out without a plan, right?
Yeah.
Let me. Did you want to? I'm assuming that you wanted to improve your health, but did you want to get out of the military?
Not necessarily. Well, I mean, eventually I knew I was going to get out, but it wasn't necessarily going to be then. I had a chief when I was in
Yeah.
Hawaii that told me, he said the reason he did 20 years or 20 plus is because he always had a little bit of the upper hand on the Navy, meaning he was always able to re-enlist for his orders. And he said that, he's like, look, if they ever get the upper hand on you, they will screw you over as hard as they can. So when I went to go re-enlist, it was that like they had got the upper hand on me, and I was like, no, this is gonna screw me over big time, and I'm already having health issues. It's gonna be real bad.
Yeah.
So it was to the point where I was like, no, I got to make a decision. Either allow them to screw me over, or just go ahead and
Yeah.
figure out a way to live my life. So it wasn't the plan to get out then.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have more time. I thought I had another year or year and a half. Uh, so it was a little bit of a shock, but
Yeah.
at least I had a little bit of some savings and things like that I didn't like, go belly up right away.
Yeah. Dude, it seems to be a common story on the medical side that they'll like chew you up and kick you out. And it's very interesting. I like how he framed it. That's the only reason I stayed in the Marine Corps. Is like I felt that I was in control of my destiny.
Yeah.
I knew I was picking where I was going, and obviously, then if I wouldn't have, I probably would have gotten out. So
Yeah.
once you got out, I'm assuming it must have been tough financially. Um, and what was, I mean, I'm assuming that was a struggle. Did you have a hard time finding a job in Iowa City, or how did you provide for yourself in that time outside of your own savings?
Yeah, it was actually just mostly that. I had some savings. We
Wow.
had some like stocks and stuff. We went back and we lived with family for a little bit to kind of save on housing and things like that. Uh, Being an Intel guy, most of the jobs for me were not in Illinois, obviously Iowa area. So, and because I
Yeah.
didn't have a job and trying to stay in where I am now in the DC area, that's what I was at the time when I got out. It was just not going to work out financially. It's very expensive here, much more expensive than in Illinois,
Yeah.
obviously. So I was like, well, look, we can
Yeah.
just go back real quick. We'll figure it out. So, um, and I just started doing interviews from there. So would take trains up to Chicago. I would, had some friends still here, so I'd fly out here every now and then and go do job fairs, things like that. So it was, we figured it out and didn't have to spend a ton of money to do it, but yeah, it was a little bit rough at first.
Yeah, I believe that. And so, okay, so that's and you eventually got the job. You're back working with government. Let me ask you. Let's go. I'm gonna take it a little bit on the way backs.
Yep.
What was your, when it comes to your upbringing, and I'm referring to financially,
Hmm.
what were some of the stories, or what did you hear about money? What were people's thoughts about money? What were the lessons you got about money before you joined the military?
Yeah, so I grew up poor. We grew up, at one point we lived in a trailer park. Then we moved to my great grandma's old house when we moved back to where my parents were from. That house eventually collapsed on itself, literally collapsed in on itself.
Wow.
We moved it literally across the street, and the house eventually got to a point where there was like a hole, like literally a hole right in front of the toilet. So you go sit down and take a crap, and you're looking in the basement, like literally looking
Wow.
into the basement. So my parents did not have a lot of money. My mom, for the most part, has worked minimum wage jobs. I think most of her life, still.
Mm.
My dad just passed away in April, but he had a decent job, but he was alcoholic and smoked like a chimney. So he spent a lot of money on those kind of negative habits. So we just didn't have a lot of money. So I started
Yeah.
working in the cornfields when I was 12, buying my own clothes, shoes, things like that. If I wanted anything super nice, I needed to get it myself. So my image of money was that it was scarce, like it was, and it was something you had to really like sell your time for, so to speak, and it was, as you get it, you spend it, things like that. So it was not a healthy relationship with money for sure.
Mm.
And again, you hear the stories too. Money's the root of all evil, and like wealth is, it makes people, evil or bad or whatever, and then, that. So that's where you kind of
Yeah,
start
yeah, yeah.
thinking that way. So then you start to build up a little bit of money, and you go spend it because you're like, oh, I can't get rich because I'm gonna be an
Yeah,
asshole.
yeah.
So you're like, I gotta go spend the money. So you kind of get
Yeah.
that bad mentality.
Yeah. I really hope that you're very wealthy, because you don't sound like you're an asshole. So
I've
let
I've
me
done
ask you,
much
with
better
that
since.
you said, good, good. You don't have to look at your basement when you take a crap, right?
Exactly.
So with that, I love that you said that the image was that it was scarce. Do you still feel that money is scarce?
I did for a long time, and it wasn't until relatively recently when I started, like, one after my health started to kind of clear up. I really part of that was because I started getting into this mental performance stuff that we talked about a little bit ago. Is that I started like really change the way I look at everything. Change my I call it
Yeah.
now I call it my relationship with, and then fill in the blank, right? So when I changed my diet to get my health, my weight under control, I changed my relationship with food, So to get my finances under control,
Mm.
just changing my relationship with money and how I think about it, and realizing money is just energy. It's why they call it a currency, right? Like, and if you don't spend it, you're never going to get it back. So you have to be available
Hmm.
to be able to receive it, and in order to be able to receive it, you have to sometimes spend it. So it just really
Hmm.
started to modify the way I thought about it, and then realizing that money is not evil. People are evil, and if they get money,
Yeah.
they just show how evil they really are. You don't know how evil they are because they don't have the ability to affect so many people until they get the money. But there's also good people who get a lot of money who do really good things for other people. And
Yeah.
then you start realizing that and going,
Yeah.
okay, it's not the money, it was the person, and the money showed who they really were.
Yeah. And dude, I love that. I always say that money just accentuates the person that you are.
Yeah.
So this is going really well. And with the when mental performance,
Hmm.
what was the catalyst that got you there? Obviously, it was recovering your health, but how did you find this mental performance space?
Yeah, so part of it was I'd kind of given up on life. I was in so much pain at that point. Like I was in and out of the hospitals constantly. So I was in my closet one day getting ready for work or something. I just a lot of the symptoms I was having. Basically, if you didn't know, the symptoms of a heart attack and stroke, I was having those every day to the nth degree. 12 out of 10 pain constantly. So finally, I was in my closet one day. I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna die. I'm just gonna lay here. I don't care anymore. And then I was like, I don't know if I don't know how this works. I'm not a particularly religious person. It's like, but God, if you let me survive this one, I'll figure this out and I'll start helping other people. And of course, I didn't die, so I was like, okay, I guess I got to figure it out now. So I just started kind of going through my own like stuff, and came across, like I told you about earlier, Brian Kane does a lot of mental performance for athletes, and started going down that rabbit hole. Found guys like Jocko Willink, David Goggins, guys like that. They kind of like really realized that, like, hey man, like these guys have gone through some stuff too, and they just use the way they think to change a lot. Why can't I do that? So I started doing that and said, okay, well, what can I do? I can't do a lot of stuff physically, but I can get my diet under control. So let me just start there. So I just started saying that's what I can control, so let me control that. And then just started putting pieces together. And as some of those other things cleared up, I started realizing, well, maybe I can do this, maybe I can do that, and kind of just worked more and more into those pieces, which led me down a big rabbit hole of just self-development and mental performance. And then it just kind of cleaned up all of my life, so like my health eventually, and then financially, give me the ability to be able to pay for a lot of the services I had to get for to clear up my health. I wouldn't have had that money if
Yeah.
I hadn't started that process and being able to go, okay, well, I can control this. Let me get my confidence back. Okay, now I have my confidence. I can go ask my job for more money, because I can just go up and say, hey, you don't pay me enough for what I do for you. So I built up all that stuff mentally. Then I then had the confidence to go say, hey, you don't pay me enough. I need more money. And then because of that, and then I was like, okay, well, also don't get paid enough from the VA. Let me ask them for more money. Like let me go tell them I have these problems. You need to pay me for it. So I started getting all this wealth coming in, this money coming in, so I can pay for my health to get that back under control.
Wow, dude, that's it's a so in depth conversation, and let me and I like how you go deep into how something so simple had this massive effect. How do you separate mental performance and self development, or do you at all?
I, I, I don't know that there is a difference necessarily, because everything you do begins and ends with a thought. So if you don't have the ability to perform mentally, then you will never change anything in your life.
Hmm.
Now it's just going, well, like, oh, okay, if you get your mind under control, then I'm going to be able to, a 7-foot basketball player. No, that's not how it works. But it affects everything you do. So if you can't control your thoughts, no matter where you think you can go, it will defeat you. But
Yeah,
if you can keep them under control, even at
yeah,
those bad times, you'll still be able to push through and overcome those negative thoughts.
yeah. I agree. In with that, I'm because you're. I like how you talk about this control of thoughts. I'm really big into it, whether it's a Christian view or a personal development view. Um, do you believe that service members do a good job at controlling their thoughts? And I know I'm trying to hone in on this demographic, but do you think that they do? Is your experience that they do or that they don't?
Um, no, not particularly. They're not trained to, right? Like, I mean, a lot of times, depending on the level they are, right? Like, a lot of service members are trained to just do as they're told rather than think. So they do that.
Yeah,
They're like, hey, like,
yeah,
you're going to control my thoughts for me. I don't have to think. I just got to go and perform. And that's much easier
hmm,
in a lot of ways. until you start
Yeah.
getting into some of the leadership positions. The higher up you go, sometimes, if you're good at it, right, like then you have to really start thinking about why you're doing things and why you're asking somebody else to do it and how to get them to want to do it. And that starts becoming where you start to actually have to think about your thinking. And if you don't get to that level,
Yeah.
though, they don't teach you how to do that, and almost discourage you.
No, no, no. Yeah, and it's I find it very I find it very interesting that we do not put that aspect of mental resiliency early on, because it's something that I believe that it can be taught even as a resource as pivotal for the development of the warfighter, right?
Mm.
And in my perspective, like, and I've said this before, I don't think that the military needs to care a whole lot about our money. It's not a financial institution, right? Nobody goes to Target or Walmart or a corporation is like, you need to teach me finance. They're like, so I don't understand that responsibility, but
Yeah.
the mental performance aspect, the personal development aspect, even if you, like you said, if we just framed it as mental performance, it's like, here's some key texts, pick whichever, and create that incentive. How much more resilient service members we would have, um, instead of all these, a lot of service members that are not like. And you sound like this kind of guy that you don't want the VA for you. The money has helped, but you want to be healthy.
Yeah.
You don't
So
want to. You don't sound like the kind of guy that wants to depend on that.
that's actually one thing we can talk about is I needed to get to 100% so that I could afford the lifestyle that's going to keep me healthy. Right. So I think a lot of people
Mhm.
misconstrue that. They think that if I get that money and then get healthy, that they're going to take the money away. Well, there's a couple things wrong with that. One is there's a rating for something that could be fixed, right? So like say you have like a broken leg, they may give you a temporary rating that you can get reevaluated with a couple of years, right? But they tell you that up front. But you can get a full and complete disability where it's like permanent is what they call it, right? So I have a 100% permanent disability. So they can't take that away from me. Now I use that money now to then afford the physical therapy to come to my house so I get out of insurance. I use it to be able to eat clean and healthy, quality, high quality food so that I can keep my joints and everything else stable from all the other issues that I've dealt with in my past. So I take that money and I create a healthy lifestyle for me because I have that extra money to be able to do that. If I didn't have the money from the VA, I don't know that I'd be able to afford the things I do. It would be much harder, at least
Yeah.
within the context of the rest of my life. I'd have to then give up something else. So for me, it was necessary to create a life that I wanted. And I think some people
Mhm.
try not to because they're like, well, if I get better, then they're going to take it away. But that's the point of the money, so you can gain your health. Whether that's financial health, physical health, whatever, mental health, whatever it is.
So in your mind, if you were able to fully recover, would you? Obviously, this is not going to happen because you're permanent total. So I'm just opinion. If you were able to fully recover, would you accept to not have the money?
So if people watched what I do now, they would probably think that I'm fully recovered, right? Because I do a lot of stuff now. I
Right.
ran 10 Spartan races last year. I do a lot of stuff with the calisthenics-based stuff. So I do a lot of things that looks like I'm fully recovered. That's only because of the lifestyle I'm capable of living now. If I have to deviate from my diet, my joints start hurting really, really bad again. So what people don't understand is I am only this way now because I have the ability to continue the lifestyle I have to maintain that.
Yeah.
So, but if I had things that I could fix that weren't permanent, yes, I would actually still use that
Yeah.
money to get that health. I would much rather my health because in the long run, if I can get my body healthy and physically capable, I am capable of earning more money. So if I can do that,
Mm.
they don't. I don't have to continue taking it from them if necessary. If not necessary, I can go and earn it because I'm going to add more value somewhere else anyway. So yeah, I would if
Oof.
that were the case, I would. Yeah, I would. I would definitely do that.
dude. That's I love you. I was hoping that that's I didn't know if you would say that. We clearly haven't spoken about this, and I feel that that's what service members ignore. That like the whole goal is to live a healthy life.
Yeah.
It's not to go and be broke the rest of your life and continue like, oh, everything hurts, everything sucks, life sucks,
Yeah.
my everything like I'm in pain, I can't get up. Like, do something. Like the goal is to have a healthy life and hopefully seek longevity,
Yeah.
right? Uh, and I find it, man, most guys, and you probably see it too. Most service members, veterans rather, that are happy with the compensation just for compensation's sake are
Yeah.
actually still very unhealthy.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, you're gonna die really young with this money, and it's like it's not gonna be worth it. It's
Yeah.
and that's I think that they don't accept that. It's like it's so, and it's very it's very. I don't know how we address this as a community without vilifying the guys that are doing a lot of the good, you know, or that are good stewards of that dollar for themselves and for their family, for themselves and for their nation. You know what I mean? Yeah, 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 yeah. Mm. Ooh, dude, that is really good. And if somebody is getting offended by this, you know, you need to reevaluate how you manage that money and how you see your own life because you know, do it for good, right? And go give value to people. Don't just be a leech in our society, you know, happy taking your disability. And it's like, that's not it. Um, so with that, what are some of the resources that have helped you, whether it's literature or you said Brian Kane, who else has been, or what else has helped you through this journey, which I see you've connected a lot of things, where there's physical performance, mental performance, and financial stability. What are some other resources that you have encountered? Mhm. Mhm. Hmm. Mm, mm, yeah. What was that like with, like, so your relationship with money changed, you healed a lot there, and you were able to start building wealth. What would you say some of the key messages of that book as to how, let's say, what are some of the secrets, right? Like, what's the insight that people can get out of that book? Hmm. Mm, mm, yeah. Do, do you feel that you are consciously choosing to do opposite of what your parents have done in order to have success in your life? Mm, got it. Yeah. Yeah. And you just said that, and it's funny about victim mentality, that at the end of the day, being a victim requires choosing to be a victim, right? We could purposely choose to be a winner, and and for whatever it is, right? This is why I go back to wealth and personal mindset, is that anybody that is wildly successful has harnessed the power of mental toughness, and they are not choosing to be victims, right? And I'm not saying that it's exclusive to the wealthy, right? We see it in athletes, we see it in countless spaces, right? Like I mean, uh who is it? Mahatma Gandhi, right? Wildly successful in what he did. Maybe did not equate to wealth, but he didn't care for the wealth, but he never chose to be a victim. And it's a trend that clearly those of us that dive into personal development and or mental performance, that we have to, we willingly can choose not to be a victim, or we can choose to and not have a change, right? um, if you had 10 minutes with somebody, let's say you knew somebody that was being a victim, and they have accepted their victim, what would you tell them in order to get out of that? Mhm. Ooh. Hmm. Right. Yeah. 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 Dude, that's big. And I wish that more people could would see that the power of just, that a thought, like, okay, this is bad, this is absolutely terrible, choose it to be a good, right? Like, many people in personal development always go back to Viktor Frankl, right? If you can choose to make your time in a concentration camp a favorable experience in your life, we can choose to make anything a positive, right? And he never downplays how terrible it was, or anything like that. So cool, man. Now, moving forward, now that you are on this path of healthy, what is your the future? Where are you going? What's your mission? Uh, what would you say? What would you say? It's like, you want to, how do you want to impact the world? Hmm. Yeah. What is a where have you where did you read that to be a genius? Because I've heard that too. I've also heard that. Mhm. Mhm. Right. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, dude. Yeah, that's so good, and I wish that most people regret that. I was listening to this audio. It's like how we got to choose to do even the tiny little things with more energy, with more passion, and you're bound to get more money. Wealth comes in, and the idea of creating wealth is for your impacting yourself and your family, not just to drive a Ferrari. So how do we drive that? Now, dude, this is absolutely excellent. What would you, as you're impacting people, how can people find you? How are you reaching people to deliver this message? Cool. And awesome. Cool. I'm excited to see it. I'm really big into this, so I'm excited to dive into it. And now, do you coach like one on one? Can people reach out to you for that, or what are your services at this time? Dude, that yeah, dude, I see it all the time. Yeah, we see it all the time with finances. I'll lay out a great plan, and they're like, "I don't want to do that," and I was like, "Then why you ask me?" It's like, "Hey, whatever. You do you, bro. You clearly asked for help, and you clearly didn't know. Here's the plan. I don't like it." It's like whatever. Uh, so cool, man. This was great. I'm gonna dive into your content. That way we can maybe come back and do another one. Uh, I really appreciate your time. This is I'm gonna be posting it all over the socials, and I'll be adding you to it. Dude, thank you so much. I hope that people jump in and come excited about how we can use personal development to fix any and all aspect of life. Yeah, man, pretty pumped, man. We'll catch you soon. Later, bro. All right, I'm